guys, welcome back to the Lame Talk part of the show. Ogre had to step out, so I'll be covering for him, and then it'll just be the three of us for this half of the show. So let's get into it. In the Lame Talk, we talk about some games that we play, movies or TV, things that are in the news, and just some questions for you guys that are not really necessarily related to DCL. So the first thing, odd games. In the news recently, in terms of games, what I picked up pretty much about 5 minutes ago, or I guess 5 minutes before the podcast started, was the fact that the NES and the SNES Mini Classic are to return to US shelves June 29th. What do you guys think?
Cool.
Yeah.
I can't wait for people to buy 100 of them and then sell them for 5 times the price.
I wonder if they're not going to control that in any way, because in Japan they have, like, when the SNES when the SNES was released, based on what happened with the NES Mini release, they, for example, most electronic retailers made it like sort of a lottery type of thing where you would have to line up to get a ticket in the draw to be able to have the opportunity to buy one. You know what I mean? And so you would make it so that not everyone would be able to get more than one. Well, basically, not everyone would be able to even get one because it'd be so high in demand. So, that case in point, my sister-in-law got two. So I'm not sure how. I think she pulled twice. She got two tickets. Her and her husband, or her and my nephew. Lined up and they both got one, so yeah.
Nice.
But in terms of this,
work with like the classic games. I mean, is it like your old cartridges?
No, actually, what it is that it's a mini system. It's basically an emulated system that's preloaded with games that Nintendo had just put on there. So in terms of I think the NES had 30 games on it, and the SNES had a little bit more. I think like 50 or so. Do you know?
Yeah, it was 35 on the classic NES and then 50 on the big one, I think.
Yeah. And there was a lot of major titles on them. Like, let's see, for NES, there's a lot of the Mario games on there. Ice Climber was on there. Donkey Kong was on there.
I wouldn't call Ice Climber a major title, but
it was popular, right? So it was one of those big big names.
Was it really, though?
Let's put it this way. If it was in Pixel and Wreck-It Ralph, it was big enough, I think.
Yeah, I guess so.
Super Nintendo, of course, all the major hits like Super Mario World, Mario Kart, Donkey Kong Country, a lot of the Final Fantasies were on there, too. There was a lot of good stuff on that one, so it was a huge hit. So, personally, I've played a lot of the Super Nintendo mini games and the Nintendo classic mini games. I think the Japanese version and the non-Japanese version are a bit different in terms of the games that are on there, because I think there's definitely some Japanese exclusive titles on the system that are probably not on the American version, because they were never really written in English, I think, so it wouldn't make sense otherwise. But the one thing that the SNES Mini, I believe the new one should have it too, is that it had a secret edition of Star Fox 2, which never got released. So basically, it was a game that was in development during the end of the SNES lifespan, before the Nintendo 64 was released, right? But basically, they hoped to release it, but then they decided not to, because they believed that the N64 would have cannibalized its sales, so it never got released, and it's now released on this system exclusively. So, yeah. Did you guys hear about
That's
that?
cool for that's cool for the 20 people who like Star Fox, I guess.
Star Fox was a good game, but the one thing I hated about was the controls. The controls are really hard to use. So.
I like Star Fox for the GameCube, but that's because I'm a casual.
Clay, are you into any of the Nintendo series games from back in the day?
I never had a Nintendo when I was a kid. I had Game Boy, and that was like my thing. All my friends had it, so there's probably a couple of games that I want to go back and play. Especially what was the Link game for the SNES?
The one that was linked to the Game Boy? Oh, are you talking about Zelda?
Link for the NES. That would be
Zelda game. What was the Zelda game?
It's not Link's Awakening.
Link
It's
to the Past, or for the
Link to the Past.
NES.
Like, cause I never got to play all the way through because my friends, like, I could only play it at my friend's house, and I would never use their save games, and I was never able to finish it. So I'd love to go back and play through that.
Yeah. I mean, there's always ROMs if you wanted to, but yeah, Link to the Past is probably one.
I don't know if I didn't have the controller though. Like the feel of that controller is just right, you know.
That's another good point about the minis. So the NES, one thing that a lot of criticisms people had on them was that the controller was really tiny because it's made to be portable. Like you could actually take it to your friend's house and just plug it in because it's USB and HDMI, right? So but the controllers, because the system's so small, the controllers are really tiny. So like it feels like you're playing on like some kind of weird cheap like dollar store like mini controller, right?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd like that.
But the Super Nintendo version of the mini was redone so that it was a little bit bigger but still small and portable, but the controllers were full-size SNES controllers. So like the original SNES size controllers. So,
great.
Yeah.
I was feeling really awkward because like I don't have big hands. I have tiny hands. I'm like that guy from the Burger King commercial that's like, I want to eat this mega Whopper, but I got these tiny hands. That's me, basically. And even then, that controller still felt incredibly small to me.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they learned from their mistake and they're making it with the bigger controller.
Yeah. The one thing that I liked about it, though, is like they had to port it to make it USB, not like the original, I don't know, whatever the hell that was, that plug thing that they plugged into the Super Nintendo. But the controller itself, I'm not sure where they did, but the plastic and everything feels exactly the same, like the old, really like crappy hard plastic, and the D-pad is really stiff. You know, if you ever tried to play Street Fighter on that thing, trying to do fireballs, it really burns like the skin on your thumb. you know what I'm talking about? The D-pad.
Mm-hmm. Like, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I can't tell you how many blisters I've had from playing on that stupid controller. Oh my god.
I was gonna say, my guy, from doing fireballs on every controller I've owned, friggin' the down and the right buttons on my PlayStation controller, my Nintendo controllers, and everything else are just worn down. So it's like this pristine controller, except those two buttons are like ground white, and it's woof.
I'll have to say.
So yeah, no.
I know. On the topic of controllers and doing fireballs on them, even though I don't own one. The original, I think it's the Xbox controller or the Xbox One controller, I can't remember which one. It has the best D-pad for doing fireballs because basically it's pretty like, I don't know, it's ergodynamic, I guess is the word I'm looking for, but it's smooth. Ergonomic, yeah. It's very like the transition between like, you know, down and right or down and left is smooth. It doesn't wear out your thumb, so it feels good. But yeah, side point. Anyways, any games from back in the day that you were sort of like wanting to relive, Doom?
From back in the day? Yeah. No, not really. The earliest game that I actually enjoyed and played through was Paper Mario. So, you know, because I was never much of a gamer back. Oh, I take that back. Star Wars Rogue Squadron, but that's also on the N64. So that's really when I started gaming. Oh. So things from the era before that I've played, but I never really enjoyed. So
okay. So maybe I'm like the only one then. Well, I don't know about Ogre. If he was still here, he'd probably chime in. But for me, it's I started with NES. I played it basically up until Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came out, and then I got really frustrated at that game because I could never beat it, and I threw it against the wall. So Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, if you guys didn't know, for the NES is probably one of the hardest platformers you can ever play for that system. So yeah, if you guys... Actually,
the original version of it is indeed unbeatable because there is a gap that is too large to jump.
Yeah, it's stupid. And I did, as a kid, I was like 8 years old, and I got really mad and I broke my system. So the SNES
arcade version.
Sorry,
because I remember playing that a lot when I was a kid.
I think it's different from the arcade version, but I could be wrong. It's the one where like you could play as up to 2 players because there's only 2 controllers, and you play like it's side-scrolling platforming. So it could be, but I can't really remember the arcade version. So
the arcade version was slightly different, but it was patched to where it was beatable. So
yeah. Okay, so the other thing I was talking about for SNES, like the games that really sort of pretty much everyone will remember are the Mario games, I would say. And the biggest one for SNES, and I think a lot of Mario fans will agree with me, is Mario Kart. Mario Kart being the first one being on SNES was probably like the beginning of it all, and which really drove that franchise, because the Mario Kart games are pretty much what sells like the majority of portable systems these days, like the DS games, right? So yeah, Mario Kart definitely up there for me. Really love playing that game, and every time I'm over at my brother-in-law's house, I play it a lot. So yeah, it's fun. Okay.
I'm playing on N64, but I don't think I would be able to handle dealing with the lower graphic counts and stuff like that, because driving in the classic Mario Kart was hard. Like, it was like,
it is hard.
Like, nowadays you have drifting, but back then it was like, oh, well, I pressed the gas for a millisecond too long. Looks like I'm going off the edge.
Do you know the strats, like the old school strats? What you have to do is you have to sort of jump into turns, and then you kind of semi-drift. You don't really get a full drift like there are today, right? But it's like a fake drift back what you could do with 16 bits, right? So
yeah, I remember I would take a corner on Rainbow Road, and I'd just be mashing the button that makes me bounce slightly to kill speed.
Yeah. So
good times.
What you got to do, like if you're really good at Mario Kart, is you use the right or the left trigger, the L or R button to jump, and then you jump into the turn. And as you're going into the turn, you have to let go of the accelerator, so you drop speed a little bit, and then accelerate back into it so that you move out of it. It's really hard to maneuver, but you get like this fake drift out of it. It's not really a drift, but it is, and it helps you maneuver it. And basically, the reason people could do that really well made Yoshi and Toad really broken, because their handling was really, really good. So, and Yoshi's really fast in that game. So, okay. Anyways, enough about reliving the past. Let's go on to the silver screen. We're going to talk about the Avengers: Infinity War. Doom, I hope you watched it.
I did, but can we also talk a little bit about Deadpool 2 if we don't spoil?
That's what we're talking about it. So, well, we're not going to spoil. Oh. Have you actually watched it? Because I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, I watched it last night.
Oh, jeez. All right, try not to spoil it for me. I'm going to watch it a couple weeks from now, because it comes out June 1st in Japan. So, okay. Clay hasn't watched either of these, right?
I haven't watched either one.
Yeah. Well, I guess you kind of zone out for it a little bit. Do you know anything about the Avengers?
Didn't they have the Civil War movie?
Yeah.
That was a while ago.
One. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like Marvel. It's just not my thing.
Right. No, you're basically caught up then, because basically everyone you'd need to care about in this one was in that one.
All right. So fair enough. Well, for those of you who do like Marvel and are listening to this, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched Infinity Wars yet, go ahead and watch that, and then tune back into this afterwards. But you've been warned. All right. So, Doom. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the Avengers first, and then we'll go into it?
Okay, well, I rate everything that wasn't Chris Pratt throwing a tantrum at the end of the movie a solid 8, and then everything past the point that he threw his tantrum and killed half the universe a 3.
Yeah. I'm almost on the same level as you are. Basically, Chris Pratt ruined the movie, but he didn't really ruin the movie. The movie was really good. So overall, I'd probably give it 8.5, right? So I think that's fair. Yeah. It's a fair rating.
I mean, the movie itself was solid. I liked the references. The jokes were funny. The story was interesting, but it always bugged me that, one, this isn't even Infinity War. That's, it's an entirely different book series in the Marvel continuity. Okay. But 2, that like the entire thing is like everyone's like, oh well, we have to protect our stones, and then one by one are just basically handing it to Thanos. Like, here you go. Oh, I have to protect the Mind Stone. Here, have the Mind Stone. Oh no, it got used against me. Who would have guessed?
It's like, oh, I don't have the Time Stone. Oh, here's the Time Stone. Here you go.
Yeah. Oh, here you go, bro. I mean, I locked it in a portal in time you never would have been able to access without me, but, there you go. Enjoy.
Yeah.
And then by the time they were finally like, okay, we need to destroy this crystal, Thanos was like, you thought you were destroying that crystal. Instead, I'm going to take it. Thanks. Snap. Now, I will say, right, I already said my piece on the Chris Pratt thing. I don't want to talk about it much because it is a big controversial point in the movie, and it's just like, come on, man. But I will say that when Thanos throws Gamora into the thing to get the Soul Stone, I did appreciate just how like grieved he actually looked. Like he looked so upset. I actually started tearing up for the guy, and I was like,
I like that scene too. It was
incredibly well done.
It was unexpected. Well, let's backtrack a little bit. What's the deal with Red Skull?
Okay, so Red Skull's thing, right, is that in, I guess, what was it, like First Avenger or something like that, he talks about finding a stone and touching it and then it doing something, right? So I guess it's assumed that he found a soul stone, touched it, and then got transported to that planet where he's just been stuck since then. But I don't actually know. He popped up and I actually didn't even recognize him at first. I was like, is that Taserface from the Avengers 2? Or
Taserface.
I thought it was. I legit thought it was Taserface.
Was Taserface
Guardians
of the Galaxy? Yeah, Taserface. That was funny. Your name was Taserface. So okay. So anyways, about the that scene with the Soul Stone stuff, like the whole thing reading into the situation with Gamora was like. He's like it's like the biggest troll. You can't ever get your goal because you don't love anything, and it's like, oops, he loves you and throws you in there.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When Red Skull was like, he's not weeping for himself, I was like, oh shit.
yeah.
So
it
was rough. Like emotional trips, man. Feels trip all day. I was like, whoa. Why do I care that Thanos is crying right now?
Sort of a bit of a tangent. The SBO001 in chat proposed a very interesting title for the movie: Avengers, Purple Geologist Ruins Everything.
Yeah,
That's basically what. That's pretty funny. I thought. Yeah,
there's one that I read that it was like single father tries to save the universe with his rock collection. And I was like,
okay, I liked what's his name? I can't remember the name of the actor right now. The guy who also plays Cable in Deadpool, but they overdid his chin though. Like I think in the there's Josh Brolin. Josh Brolin's chin was too big in that movie. I feel like I don't think Thanos needed to be that exaggerated, but overall I think the character was decent. So what do you think?
Honestly, I think he looked good. Like, obviously, the actual Thanos is a giant, so his chin needs to be pretty big. But, yeah, I agree. The rest of the proportions on his face didn't really fit it very well.
He came off as having an ass on his chin. That's kind of what I was looking at. Like, it was too big. It was a bit too disproportional to how he was drawn in the comics. But, yeah, that's just me. Overall, okay,
I will say, though.
Yeah?
They picked a good actor as far as his voice is concerned. It was stellar.
Okay. Yeah, well, I agree with you there. Okay, let's talk about the comedy in this movie because there's a lot of funny scenes. I feel like there's a lot of scenes where I just like really laughed out loud. And I'm in a Japanese theater, so a lot of people didn't get the jokes, so it was kind of funny. so okay. Now, my favorite scene personally, I would probably have to say is, and probably one of my favorite characters from all the Marvel series is Drax.
Oh yeah, dude, Dave Bautista.
He killed it, and he just crushed it. And did you know a lot of his lines were improv? They were all ad-lib.
Yeah.
Like a lot of it was just like none of it was scripted. And so the best part, which I looked up, which was definitely not unscripted, was the scene where he's like listening in on the conversation. He's like, "You guys can see me."
Yeah.
It's like,
if I stand so still, I'm invisible.
Right. It's like, I've mastered the art. It's like, I've been here for over an hour. It's like, and then Mantis walks in. It's like, oh, hi, Drax. Damn it.
Yeah. And he's like, you can't see me. And then he's eating something while he's saying it.
It's like, yeah, we can see you, dude. You're eating. Yeah.
But, what's his name? Batista, or whatever. I think his actual name's Dave Bautista. But he was a pro wrestler for so long.
Yeah.
That, I mean, he basically, his entire career is just improvising for the most part.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he killed it. Yeah, I agree. Drax is easily the highlight of 99% of the movies he's in.
Yeah.
But my favorite funny scene was probably let me think. What was it? It was
Iron Man and Spider-Man and Doctor.
yeah, Spider-Man. It was when Spider-Man popped up in the thing, and he's like, okay, there's this movie called Alien, right?
Oh,
And then they shoot the guy out, and then they show up on the planet, right? And then Chris Pratt's like, is Footloose still the best movie ever? And Spider-Man was like, it never was. And I thought they were about to fight, and I was like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I do like the fact that they're true to the what's his name? Chris Pratt's character.
Star-Lord.
Star-Lord, yeah. The Star-Lord character being trapped in the 70s, right? So, I mean, I like that whole aspect. It brings that small niche little level of comedy, but a lot of the younger kids out there won't know won't get the references, right? So, but I liked it. It was funny. Who would
and
you
also
say?
that scene where Doctor Strange is like, "Oh, I'm Doctor Strange." Spider-Man's like, "Oh, we're using our made-up names. I'm Spider-Man." And I'm like, "Oh."
Who would you pick between, like, let's say, as characters and as actors? Let's say, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, and Thor. Being what's his name?
Chris Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth, Benedict
Robert Downey.
Cumberbatch, and Robert Downey Jr. Who would you pick out of those three as your favorite? For that.
Geez, is it just in this movie or is it in every movie?
Okay, we can say overall, but in this movie in particular, because there's like a lot of things, like all
Iron Man.
Iron Man. You picked Iron Man. Why do you pick Iron Man?
Iron Man, because Thor I could never pick ever because his character is essentially in this movie boiled down to, hey, look, I have muscles. Now watch me talk to that guy from Game of Thrones you all know. And then, which, by the way, I'm glad they made Peter Dinklage a freaking giant. Like, that's just the best.
But he's still considered a dwarf as a type
I know.
species. So
like they said
I found that kind of
and
on
I'm
point.
going to be a tiny guy. And then I get introduced to 8-foot tall Peter Dinklage, and I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
that's what I needed. I didn't like Benedict Cumberbatch in this movie either. I thought he was such a flat character. He was basically, I need to protect the time stone. And then friggin' Tony Stark's like, you won't take it to Thanos. You won't fight him. And then Benedict Cumberbatch is like, okay, fine, let's go to Thanos. And I was like, no, just go home. You have the time stone. You can literally just undo everything.
Yep.
Why?
Yeah. There was a lot of questions of why. So
it has to be Iron Man.
I liked Iron Man in terms of overall comedy, but if I had to pick a character, I'd probably pick Thor, because I think Thor's character in this movie, compared to all the other Thors, was much better than all his other Thors. I mean, I think the Ragnarok was pretty good, like, in terms of comedy, but in terms of a superhero, like, he just came in and wrecked everybody. Like, he was the Superman of this movie, right? He just, after he got the Stormbreaker, and just crushed everybody with that, and he just came back to the fight in the middle of the war. He's like, where is Thanos? Bring me Thanos. And then you could just feel the tension there. You could just feel him. He's out there. He's gonna kill him. Like, he's like, I told you I'm going to kill you for this, right? After he kills Loki. Spoiler, he kills Loki. And I didn't expect him to kill Loki in the first, like, 5 minutes of the movie. Like, Jesus, it was so fast.
I did.
Yeah.
Like, after he pieced up Thor so bad that he refused him out of Bruce Banner, from then on, I was like the moment Hulk got his butt kicked in a boxing match by Thanos, I was like, okay, Loki's probably gonna die.
Yeah, and Thor and Hulk got scared and never came back out for the movie. So, yeah. So,
like,
anyway.
even when Thanos wasn't around, Hulk was like, no, I'm not coming out.
Yeah. So, actually, now, on a somewhat DC-related note, now maybe Clay can try to chime back in here. You still there, Clay?
I'm still here. Sorry, you're breaking up a little bit.
Oh, sorry. Hold on 1 second. Can you hear me now? Is it better?
Yeah.
All right. So, what some criticisms about Avengers in general versus DC. Now, because these both came out the same year, the Justice League and Infinity War. If you think about these two movies, a lot of people were saying this is what Justice League should have been. Now, there is some fair criticism, and then there is some unfair criticism. That's part of the unfair part. The reason why I personally think that it's unfair, because look at how many movies the Avengers have. This is what, the third or fourth movie? If you count Civil War, the fourth, I think. The fourth Avengers movie. And Justice League only had its first movie just recently. So, and a lot of people were saying, Avengers has a lot more characters to build on, whereas Justice League only had a handful of them. So, like, going back to the Justice League, I'm assuming you watched the Justice League, right, Clay?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so I mean, what were your thoughts on Justice League from when you watched it?
It was fine. I think the most recent film that they've done that I like the most was that or Wonder Woman film that they did. What was that, like 2 years ago?
Yeah.
I thought that was something that was different. In general, I think Marvel is actually probably better about like their movie series, and that's not anything new. I'm pretty sure everyone would agree with that. That I think that their studios, or I don't know what it is, their writing system or whatever, but they have a way of blending like the humor with the action and whatever, and it works and it's fun. And I don't think that DC has been successful in that regard in any of the films that they've done.
Okay, I mean, looks like Doom's
also have
issues, but yeah. Sorry, what were you saying?
Weird music. I also don't really get into the super dark Batman stuff. Gets too depressing after a while, and I can't handle it.
Like the stuff you're talking about, like his whole Vengeance series, like him going on like vendettas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like I like Batman as part of the Justice League, but when Batman's doing his solo stuff, he gets a bit gray. So, but in terms of like when we compare the two franchises, like the MCU and the DCEU, I personally feel that like the DCEU is sort of getting into a more darker, more sort of adult themed movie. Like not necessarily like more violent or anything, but more, what's the word here, sophisticated, or a little bit more more depth, like in terms of where they're going with the series. And it's probably going to take a lot longer for that reason, right? And whereas I look at the Marvel movies, a lot of them are more lighthearted, more kid friendly, more family friendly, and just easy, like superhero popcorn type of movie that everyone can enjoy. So I think that they're both good in different ways, but I think they're catering to different audiences. I feel like DC before, they didn't know where they were going, so at the end, DC sort of like picked the route. Like there's like, we're gonna go this way, we're gonna be a little bit dark, and we're gonna do it that way. So in the end, I feel like the way they're headed is probably the right direction, but only time will tell. What do you think about the future of the DCEU?
I hope they just keep trying different stuff, because the dark, like I said, it doesn't really appeal to me. That I think the last Batman film that I watched was the one with Bane, and it was serious, and I think they were doing something that was interesting, but it just did not appeal to me. If I want to watch something that's dark, I'd rather just watch a documentary. I don't need to watch, something that's about fictional characters. If I want to watch something about fictional characters, I want it to be fun. I want it to have a sense of humor. So,
did you watch Thor Ragnarok?
And I saw the first Thor movie, I think.
You have to, okay, even if you don't watch the other Thor movies, like Thor Ragnarok being the third one, you have to watch it. If you like that sort of upbeat comedy, Thor Ragnarok is the movie for you. Even if you don't like Marvel, just watch it. You'll appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah.
Because I really like Guardians of the Galaxy. I thought that was great.
Oh, did you watch Guardian of the Galaxy 2?
Yeah, not the second one, the first one.
I'll watch the second one too.
I can't watch like 4 movies about the same characters.
Like, that's the thing.
But yeah.
But Guardian of the Galaxy is one of those ones where it's like, it's a good time all the time. Like, you're just gonna, Guardian of the Galaxy and Thor Ragnarok are the two like more recent Marvel movies for you that I would recommend. Like, you would enjoy it. Just sit there, pop some popcorn, and just have a good time. It's really, really fun.
Oh, Thor Ragnarok. All right.
It's on there. It's on the to-do list.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, Thor Ragnarok is essentially Marvel's buddy cop film at this point.
Definitely. Yeah. So yeah, it's really good. Well, speaking on that, we'll talk a little bit about Deadpool 2 since Doom has watched it, but let's try not to spoil anything.
No, don't worry. I'll just give the very vague overview. It's fantastic if you've read comics, because there's a lot of like candid references that if you read the comics, you're really gonna love it. It's gonna be the funny
Oh, your phone died there, Doom. Hello? Clay, are you still there? Oh, god damn it.
It's
Hey, oh, there you go. I can hear you now. Wait, Doom, say something. Wait. Hello? Hello, hello?
Hello?
Hey. Oh, okay, we're back.
Hello?
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think we broke Discord again because this happened last time too, or a couple of shows ago. Just disconnected. Anyways, so
Alright.
Doom, the last thing you were saying about if you read the comics, and
Oh, if you read the comics, you'll get all the jokes, and that's the best way to watch it is reading the background material, because there's a lot of references that you just won't get otherwise. But if you haven't read all the comics, it's still a really good film. Watching it, you'll still have fun. It's a Deadpool movie, so it's what you expect.
yeah.
So, all in all, it's really good. But if you're a comic nerd, it's the best. They hit all the best notes.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of the trailers, like all the trailers that are out there right now, and and actually there's a special one for Japan. I'm not sure if there are for other countries too, where he talks about it in terms of Japan and how it's released, and it's actually pretty funny the things that he addresses. Like it's basically Ryan Reynolds just talking to the screen in the Deadpool mask. So if you want it, look it up on YouTube. It's pretty funny. But the one thing that I noticed from the trailer that I'm really looking forward to is the introduction of that random character, like the dude with no powers. Like what's his name, Peter or something?
Something like that.
Yeah. Does he play like a reasonable role in the movie, or is he just there for like a bit?
Watch the movie.
Okay.
Trust me. That if I were to tell you the answer to that, it would give away a big part of it. So yeah, trust me. Watch the movie.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, I mean, let's leave it at that so we don't spoil anything else. All right. Well, in other news, then breaking news, one of the biggest things that happened last month was the volcanic eruption in Hawaii, and too bad Ogre's not here because he was going to pronounce this name for me. Can you read this? It's Kaluuya. I don't know how to pronounce that island's name.
Type it in the Discord chat.
Hold on. It's Kilaeuea. There you go.
Kilauea?
Yeah, I don't know. But
you could just say Kilauea, and people will know what you mean.
Okay. I mean, no disrespect to any Hawaiians out there. I can't pronounce that name. But yeah, it's sort of crazy what has been going on there. I mean, I've only been seeing clips of it on the news, the big eruption there. But do you guys know what happened? Like,
it's a volcano.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nature.
Yeah. I mean, just like, what was the extent of the devastation? I don't really know. Do you guys know?
The main devastation is mainly concentrated around the top residential areas. I think it was some 120 square miles just covered in lava. All the homes are gone.
Jeez.
And it's still going, but they've managed to ebb it a lot to where it's more just kind of flowing out instead of flowing over more houses. So it's pretty in control, but there's another volcano that they're worried might start erupting. So,
Yeah. Wow. I mean, when I was looking at some of the clips on the news, like just now, I don't want to be disrespectful to anyone who is affected by that, but seeing lava, like just pouring onto the streets, like basically just eating everything, like just like the blob from like old school science fiction movies, just devastating. And you see like this black and red sort of thing that's just creeping and just I don't know how to describe it really. Just when you see it, you know what it is, but it's sort of overwhelming. Like wow, I don't know. You see that type of thing in like National Geographic or in like science documentaries, but never would you think you would see that affect real life people in real life. So yeah, or at least not in our time, but there it is. So yeah,
It like creeping across like roadways and stuff.
yeah,
It just looks alien.
yeah, exactly. That's what it is. It's alien. It just, you don't know how to feel. It's real. It's so weird. So it was, I don't know. I mean, and it's kind of scary for me because I live in Japan, and we live on top of like multiple active volcanoes. So, but the biggest thing with the active volcanoes is that a lot of them are underground or undersea. So instead of having like actual volcanic eruptions, we'll have more earthquakes than not. So that's the biggest problem for us. Yeah. So yeah, natural disaster is fun. So I guess we'll move on from there because if you guys don't have anything to say about that.
Nope, I'm good.
Yeah, I don't know. We didn't have much to talk about in the news. So I guess we'll cover the questions, some questions for this part of the podcast, and some questions that we didn't get to in the last half. So we'll start with the questions that we didn't get to in the last half. So DCL related stuff. So Pajeremy was asking us about a possible request for a segment or a part of the game that you would like to see some sort of like crazy team comp off between Clay and Ogre, but Ogre's not here, so I guess we could do it with Doom. And I would be the one, or the chat room, would come up with a tune, and the contestant comes up with a team off the top of their head, and I'd have to pick the best one for the round based on synergy and viability. So let's see. This would mean, I'm not sure exactly what they're trying to say. I think they're trying to say that we have to come up with crazy team compositions, or you two have to, and I have to decide which one's better.
Okay, that's fine by me. I mean, I'm the insight and discussion guy, so my teams are probably going to be garbage, but I'll find a fun name for them.
Let's see. So I guess what we're doing is we have to pick a theme. So I have to pick the character or the theme, and then you guys have to find the crazy team composition. So because we left off on Clay talking about Bizarro, let's talk about Bizarro. So think of crazy team compositions that would go well with Bizarro.
Okay, how long do we have? Is it just like a 10-second deal?
Just pop off the top of your head, just roll it off. So whoever wants to go first.
I don't actually have any good ones off the top of my head, but I'll think of something. All right, so with Bizarro, I think the most unique part about his kit is the fact that he heals on crits. So you would want somebody that would encourage them to crit, opponent to crit. So I think the best choice would be to have Harley Quinn Mad Jester, because that would encourage the opponent to use Steppenwolf. So Harley Quinn Mad Jester, Bizarro, and then take like 2 Mystics that could just rip all those teams that are like anti-evasion apart. Like Swampy and Etrigan or something like that, because they can tear through the energy the energy tunes. So yeah, that's what I'd pick. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's any leaders in that, but that's crazy team comp, right?
Yeah, sounds good to me. All right.
Interesting.
All right. What about you, Doom?
I'm thinking Superman lead, Bizarro, Penguin, and Mira.
Right.
So,
I like Penguin. That's a good choice.
Well, because like, Superman, obviously anyone gets crit, he goes ahead and tanks up. If Bizarro gets crit, he goes ahead and tanks up. If Penguin gets crit, he triggers his Penguin shield 100% of the time. Now, because Superman's taunting and Bizarro are taunting, basically making gigantic dumb walls, that will encourage the opponents to use AoE attacks, which not only naturally have higher crit chance rates, but also would trigger Mira's mins. Bizarro getting mins would allow him to get more turn meter because of Mira. Mira can put the damage immunity on Bizarro when he doesn't have bleeds on him, which will let him basically sit there and just be a big dumb wall in someone's face. And then on top of that, Mira has her heal immunity. Bizarro has the option to use bleeds. All in all, it's just a very balanced comp that kind of handles a lot of different situations. Like if your opponent has anything that can crit, bringing them into the fight will ensure that that Green Arrow or that Suicide Squad Deathstroke just never get that chance.
Yep. All right. So I'm gonna have to give that run to Doom. That was a pretty good, well thought out synergy.
Yeah, I think you sold that just on talking it through. I'll give that one to Doom.
Let's do another one. Someone that we don't use. Okay, Joker damage goods. Go for it.
I already have a team comp prepared. I'll let Clay go ahead and go first, though. I've had this one in my pocket for a while.
Oh, that's not fair.
All right, well, let's see. So Joker damage goods. He's got the stun and he's got the bleeds. So with Scarecrow lead, because that's a lot of debuffs. And let's go with Siren. Something to prevent them from dying turn 1. So maybe Clayface. So then you get a lot of stuns between, and you've got the bleed synergy between Siren and Joker damage goods.
Okay. All right.
Interesting.
All right. So Doom, what's yours?
Okay, so my strategy, right? So let me think. It would be Joker damage goods, Constantine for a lot of the same reasons, but other reasons as well. Then you have what's her name? Dr. Poison.
I like to call assist with that.
And you have God, I'm trying to remember his name. The energy for the life of me, I can't remember the name of the guy, but it's Chemo. It's Chemo.
How do you forget Chemo?
Ogre's like rolling over in his grave right now.
All right. Wait, say the whole team again. Say the whole team again.
So basically, you have Joker damage goods as your leader.
Okay.
You have or no, actually, you know what? You could probably also use Constantine as your leader if you really wanted to, but
Okay.
Yeah.
you know. And then you have Dr. Poison, and then you have Chemo, right?
Okay.
So basically, the beginning of the match, Constantine can activate his taunt effect on Joker damage goods, which lets him spray like 6 bleeds on every single person. And then Dr. Poison can use her true damage grenade to just completely nuke them, or if necessary, use her healing to boost everyone back up to full health, because that many bleeds is basically going to be a complete, just massive heal with all of her true percentage healing. And then you have Chemo just to add more bleeds, take advantage of the fact that there are bleeds, and that slow mixed with the fact that most of my team is slow characters works out well. Eventually, it gets down to the point where Joker can stun important targets before they even get the chance to fight. And Constantine helps with this because his assist call lets Joker get his AoE off, and then Joker has his turn freed up to where he can do his stun if he needs to, or he can do his random, possibly 0 damage, possibly 1 billion damage gunshot. And then you have Chemo like, oh, I'm going to add more slow, which removes all their meter, basically. I'm going to have Dr. Poison, who can just pass more and more bleeds. And then when it finally does get to their turn, you have the Dr. Poison passive also triggering all 1 billion of those bleed effects again. So it gets pretty killer, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it sounds pretty crazy. So I'd have to say that in general, I like that team composition basically because it's functioning as a bleed team comp, because that's actually functional, like a functional bleed team comp. So
I like Clay's composition more, actually, though, for being honest. If instead of Siren he had Constantine, basically he'd just be running around throwing hit chance down while Harley Quinn's bumping people out with her thing, and then out of nowhere Constantine's like, oh, gigantic 8 billion damage Hellblazer twice. So
Hellblazer,
I don't know. I don't think either of our comps sound very good. I gotta be honest. I think yours is too slow, and I think mine is too scattered.
that's the problem with Joker damage goods. It's really hard to build like a decent team comp around him. Okay, well,
No, I think that's really smart because the call assists with him and it bleeds. I think it probably starts there if you want to come up with a good comp. But anyway.
All right, I got one last one for you guys that will be kind of fun, and I think Doom will probably not like this one. Find a team comp around Superboy. This one's probably harder. Actually, no, it's not that hard. Now that I think about it. You guys know much about his kit?
So
He's got True Sight.
thinking
He can stun like Killer Frost, and he can he can get multiple instances of stunning. Possibly.
Constantine lead. I think you want Killer Frost. I think you want him, and I think you want Bane because his in calling 2 assists and him.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's not going to trigger the way I want to, but I want to see like 8 stuns going off in a single turn. I know it's not going to happen, but that's what I'm imagining seeing right now.
Doom, do you have something else in mind? Doom, are you there? Oh, Doom's not actually there. Doom disconnected. I didn't notice that. It's just me and you. Doom died. Okay. Well, I'm not sure what's going on there. So maybe Doom's phone either died or he's trying to reconnect. I'm not sure. But let's move on, I guess, between the two of us.
That's fine. Whatever. That's fun.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that he disappeared. But okay, so let's see here. The other questions that were here. Combopulous Michael asks, which Superfam related character would you guys like to see next? So, for example, Connor Kent, Superboy Prime, Magog, a resurrected Supes in a black uniform, Lex in his modern rebirth super armor, Parasite, Metallo, and whoever you guys like. What sort of skill set would you like to see? So, do you know much about the
I like the Parasite option. I don't know if you remember this, and I don't know if I'm just misremembering this, but when Poison Ivy came out, I swear they released some kind of statement that said she would be able to steal other people's abilities.
Yeah.
Never did that.
Yeah,
but Parasite to do that.
Yeah.
And I would love to see something like that because I think that would be a fascinating kit.
Yeah, I think,
and it would probably end up being a lot like Poison Ivy, where it only works in various like specific situations, and you totally have to build around it. It would never work on defense, otherwise it'd just be way too overpowered. But I would still love that.
I think that I would like to see sort of that, like on the Parasite idea, like a cloning type of mechanic, where you would basically just become the next like that person, but he would still keep his appearance. So he would have like their skill set. So that would be really cool. Personally, I being a Superman fan, I'd probably just want to just see like Superman Rebirth. So him in the black solar suit with like the mullet. So that to me would probably be interesting. But the question is, what would his skill set be? Because Rebirth Superman doesn't really change that much from Superman. He just is more powerful because he's recharged. So I wouldn't know how to rework Superman to make a Rebirth Superman interesting. Like, do you have any ideas how to make Superman? No,
but maybe he wouldn't be like a playable character. He'd just have to be like a raid boss or something.
Oh, that'd be cool. So you'd have to like you'd have to take him down, sort of like the Injustice Superman. Okay. Another character in terms of like the super fam that I'd want to see. I mean, I guess in that lexicon would probably be Darkseid, but Darkseid would probably be like a raid boss too. Like he'd probably, like as Ogre said many times, like changing character scale to be sort of like the Manhunter Zero scale. Like Grodd should have been that size too, but Darkseid, if he's like big as that Manhunter Zero scale, it could be really cool as a raid boss. The question is, how would you do it? But yeah, that's definitely someone I'd like to see. In terms of like minor characters in the super fam, one thing that I talked about in another podcast is Crypto. I don't want to see pets. I want to see pets in the game. Crypto and
Really cool.
Crypto and Ace would be really fun. Okay, well, let's see. Let's go and get on to the other questions here. The other questions are somewhat related to you. Now, these are getting back to the lame talk questions. Pajayami asked you, if you were a member of the DC Zoological Society, what animal would you be? I think, and these questions you already answered on Reddit, but you can answer them again here for those who haven't read it.
I read it, and I had delightful answers to them, and I don't even know what they were now.
So
it was just something I thought of in the moment. I remember the star fishing because that's what I do at night. I said that if DC Zoological, so that's like kind of an inside joke. I wanted to change the name of our alliance to DC Zoological Society, and nobody else thought that was a good idea. I don't even think I came up with it. I think it was somebody else's, and I just took it and thought it was brilliant. But nobody else wanted that for an alliance. Because I thought it'd be great if we all like chose different like animal names, and we could anyway. Yeah, no, everybody thought it was a terrible idea.
All the people asking questions for the show are all members of the UGLA. Is that it?
All people in the game are members of UGLA. Well, we're a huge alliance, so
that's fair. Yeah. So okay, so you'd be a starfish.
Fish, yep. Because I like to, when I sleep, I like to pass out, extend my arms, and lay flat.
That's fair enough. I'm sort of the opposite. I'm like on the side, curled up on a like sort of not fetal position, but sort of like crunched up a little bit. What kind of animal does that? A worm.
A mole.
A mole.
Creature.
Personally, if I were to pick an animal that would be representative of me, I'd probably pick one of two animals, and they're both really weird. One is the platypus, the other is the beaver, and they both have beaver tails. The reason why is one, the beaver is because I'm Canadian, so I love the beaver is one of my favorite animals. So the other is because I like out of all those animals, the beaver tail is one of the most interesting things I ever saw like on an animal, because it's a very unique tail. It's a paddle basically, and both those animals are just hardworking animals. They're just animals that like build stuff, and they build their own habitat, and they just craft and they make do with their surroundings. And that's sort of me. That's like me in a nutshell. I'm a resource management type of guy. I like to make do with what I have and organize things. So that would be me. I'd probably be a beaver. Platypus is cool just because he's sort of, we don't know really what they are, because I think most people say that it's a mammal because but then it lays eggs, so we don't know. I think there's a definition for it, but I didn't really look it up. The other one was, what is the point of the T in your name instead of Claywad? Are you your Claytwad? Is it middle initial? Is your full name Clayton Tiberius Wad? I'm not actually sure where that reference comes from, because Doom actually brought that up too. Is that a like pop culture reference or something? Clayton.
Yeah, but he had something else too. What was the name he was calling me earlier?
Clay Aiken. Clay as in Clay Aiken from
well, yeah, that too, but there was like a Clay Thaddeus something that he was I don't know,
or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
So do you have explanations on your name?
No, it's Claytwad is what my wife calls me when she's mad at me. That's pretty much it.
Is there any reason? But like where that come from?
No, I mean it's part of my name, but yeah, it's just
okay. That's fair. Well, there you go, guys. And then the last question from Uag asked, "Do you guys listen to any other podcasts?" So I mean, this is this podcast, and then I think most people who listen to this also listen to We Are Our Legends for the DC for the DC Legends related podcast. But what about you, Clay? Do you listen to anything else?
I listen to, I'm more interested in a lot of political stuff than video games. I listen to Democracy Now!, which is a very liberal, left-leaning news podcast. It's an independent news station. The only video game podcast I could think of was Crate and Crowbar, which I loved. I think it was the guys from PC Gamer. I don't know if they work for them anymore, but they do a podcast. They're all British, so it's really hard to tell them apart, but they are delightful, and they all have like English lit majors, which I do too. And so they have, I don't know, a nice take on video games and
cool. So
the industry. So
there must be a lot, a lot better, a lot well spoken when compared to me.
articulate and thoughtful. Yes.
Sure. I mean, okay, that's cool. Maybe I'll check that out. Would you say it was PC? Oh, no, yeah, was it Crate Crowbar? Was it? That was the name of the show, right? Okay, me personally, other than DC related stuff, I listen to a lot of gaming podcasts. But they're basically related to games that I play. So the other game that I play that like I've been playing since pretty much the dawn of time. Well, the beginning of that game is Magic, and I listen to Magic Mike's podcast, and I also listen to Magic MTG Goldfish's podcast, and then in terms of general gaming news, I would say one of the best podcasts out there is Technical Alpha, just because they talk about a lot of random stuff, but they split it up into sections, and a lot of the ideas that I got for this podcast was ripped off of theirs. And I actually mentioned that in one of the very earlier podcasts. But they talk about gaming, they talk about TV and movies, they talk about just random stuff in the news, and then they have like questions from their patrons and stuff like that. So a lot of what they do is sort of what we do, and it works. It's a good formula. So there you go. If you guys like just general gaming news, I would definitely tell you to go check out Technical Alpha. Great news, great podcast created by a couple of fellow Canadians out there. So, and they actually mentioned that a lot when they talk about American related stuff, that how they don't get it because they're Canadian. So so yeah, it's interesting stuff. It's fun. So if you guys like it, but be warned, it's a bit explicit because they're unlike us. They don't care. So I would say it's on the R-rated side of things. Okay, so I'm not sure what happened to Doom. It looks like he's back. Doom, are you back?
Yeah, I'm here.
What happened?
My phone died, so I had to charge it.
I thought so. So maybe you can get in on the last question. Do you listen to any other podcasts?
Me?
Yeah.
No. Not really. I listen to ours. I used to listen to the WB one, but they don't really do that much anymore. Yeah. I mean, they still do it, but you know what I mean.
Do you listen to We Are Legends?
No.
Oh.
Why would I? Their podcast is full of traitors.
Okay, well, fair enough.
But I mean, it's a good podcast. Obviously, jokes aside, it's a good one. I never have the time to listen to podcasts. I'm always running around doing stuff. So
yeah. On the side note on that, I was listening to one of their podcasts a while back. I think it was like last month, and Ogre brought this up too. They're thinking of potentially doing a crossover in the future, and I was also thinking of exactly the same thing. So maybe sometime later this year we could have them on the show, and that would be our crossover. But so we have a little bit of time. We'll get you in on another question, Doom. If you were a member of the DC Zoological Society, what animal would you be? Who's your spirit animal, Doom?
Sloth.
Oh yeah, well, I think we had this question. Yeah, we had. You did say that. Explain to people why.
Yes,
sloth.
Indeed.
Why sloth?
I would be why sloth?
Yeah.
Because I sleep constantly. I'm incredibly slow moving. I am the apex predator, provided that everything else stopped moving entirely.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's not the case. Also, much faster in water than I am on land. Go figure. So.
So, every time I think of sloth, I think of Flash from Zootopia. That's what I think of.
Yeah, it's about right.
I love how his name is Flash. Anyways, so with that, I think that brings us to the end of our questions, and we'll wrap things up there today. So, do you guys have any final words, Doom?
Yeah, I guess I do. As a mention, just on an aside, Clay, a lot of us do play Marvel Strike Force. We do have alliance there. If any of you guys are interested, you are welcome to come by, check us out, check out the game. It's a fun game, But otherwise, thanks for listening. I'm glad you guys are here.
Yep, okay.
Thank you for inviting me both on the podcast and to Marvel Strike Force. I did play that for a bit in beta. It was all right. I just don't have time for anything extra. So
Fair enough. All right. Okay. Well, again, thanks, Clay, for being on the show. It was great having you. And again, in case you guys haven't already, follow us on social media at Twitter, Facebook, and SoundCloud at The Oddsman. YouTube at youtube.com/c/TheOddsman. And if you haven't already, check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/TheOddsman. And with that, have a good night. See you guys.
Hey guys, this is Seth Rogen. I wanted to give a huge shout out and thanks to everyone for listening. Catch us when we go live on Discord and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and SoundCloud at The Oddsman. Feel free to check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/TheOddsman for a variety of opportunities to help us grow and provide better content. Thanks again for your continued support, and as always, enjoy and grind on.